Alabama versus Texas A&M, and will it be Bryce Young or Jalen Milroe that puts an absolute beat down on the Aggies? What a disappointing build up to this game for this week, right? Given sort of the anticipation that existed for this game 3 months ago in the offseason. I'm not going to get into the Jimbo versus Saban spat that occurred over the summer. Everybody, including myself, made multiple videos on that when it happened. I mean, we beg for things to talk about in the offseason when you run a college football channel year-round, so that was like a gift there that gave us something to talk about for a week or two. But everybody and anybody that's got anything to say about what happened and what was said between Jimbo and Saban in the offseason, it's already been said, so let's skip over that. That did make the anticipation for this game bigger, I think. And this did look like one of the biggest games of the year heading into the season. You had the Jimbo versus Saban argument over the summer storyline. You had the fact that A&M beat Alabama last year in this game at College Station, or the road game for Bama. You had the fact that, of course, Alabama was going to be highly ranked entering the season, but A&M was highly ranked entering the season. You had sort of the recruiting battles that were going on between Bama and A&M. Bama almost always has the number one class, if not number one, number two, or number three. Texas A&M got the number one class last year. You know, they recruit a lot of the same players. So, you know, if A&M were to win the game this year, that's 2 in a row over Bama. Does that tip the recruiting scale in their direction? Control of the SEC West was assumed to likely be on the line heading into this game. Playoff implications. It was a big game 2 months ago. It's an afterthought at this point for a variety of reasons. Texas A&M has been maybe the most disappointing team in college football this year. It's probably them or Notre Dame. Both those teams ranked in the top 10 in the preseason. Notre Dame, I think, was 5th in the AP poll in the preseason. And, of course, they've completely fallen off the map. Texas A&M's already got the 2 losses. Bryce Young is not playing in this game, who's the spotlight player between these two teams, defending Heisman Trophy winner from last year. Well, I say Bryce Young's not playing. That's kind of the point of this video. We'll get to that in a second. Is he playing? Is he not playing? You know how these coaches do. He's day-to-day. They asked Saban this morning, actually, Wednesday morning on a conference call about Bryce Young at practice, and they said, well, he's been able to do a few things. He's day-to-day. Standing on the sideline and watching is doing something. Anyway, we'll get to whether or not we'll see Bryce Young this weekend in a minute, but back to the game itself. So you got the fact that Alabama's like a 24-point favorite or whatever it is. So a lot of the shine has been taken off of this game, no question about it. The whole Jimbo versus Saban thing, that's not going to be an issue during the game. I don't think there's anybody expecting Saban and Fisher to get into some brawl or argument at midfield, but I mean, that's not going to happen. I hope none of y'all out there are expecting to see some kind of spat between Saban and Fisher. That's not going to happen. The game itself is likely not going to be close. Bryce Young's not playing. Texas A&M is an afterthought in the SEC West already halfway through the season. Never mind winning the SEC or making a playoff, which was the preseason sort of goals and expectations for Texas A&M. All that's out the window. And, you know, the combination of all of those things has taken a lot of the shine off of this game, really. It's a shame, too, because this was set up to be one of the best weekends of college football all year, right? Everybody was looking forward to the Alabama-Texas A&M game. The Red River Shootout is this weekend. No one cares about that game. Look, if you think the shine's been taken off Alabama-Texas A&M, think about that Texas-Oklahoma game. This will probably be the least watched Texas-Oklahoma game this century. It's the first time this game is being... They play every year, and this is the first time since 1998 that these teams are unranked when meeting in the Red River Shootout. So it's almost just an unwatchable, pointless game. Man, first time since 1998. 1998 was a long time ago. A long time ago. Just think about how long ago 1998 was. Where were you in 1998? How old were you in 1998? What a great year, 1998, right? Tennessee, man. Can I get a hashtag 1998 in the comment section, please? Thank you. The good old days, right, Valtard? Anyway, Alabama, Texas A&M, Texas and Oklahoma, Georgia, Auburn, the Deep South's oldest rivalry. You had some really big games lined up for this weekend, some rivalry games, games that were going to determine teams' position within divisions or within conferences, right? Texas and Oklahoma battling for Big 12 supremacy. Nope, that's out the window. Auburn, Auburn didn't have a whole lot of expectations heading into the season, so maybe not that one. But and then I've already went over the whole thing with Texas A&M, and now all three of those games are likely to be blowouts. Georgia's a 30-point favorite over Auburn. Bama's a 24-point favorite over Texas A&M, and it's not a huge spread in the Texas-Oklahoma game, but Texas is favored by a touchdown. I guess that'll probably be the closest, most interesting game of the day. Although if Quinn Ewers plays, I wouldn't be surprised if Texas mops the floor with Oklahoma in that piss poor, pitiful, embarrassing, shameful Brent Venables vaunted Oklahoma Sooner defense. But anyway, so back to the Alabama-Texas A&M game. No, I do not think Texas A&M is pulling an upset here. I do not think Texas A&M is going to win. And it is a little disappointing. Not that I don't think Alabama's going to lose. I don't really care who wins or loses the game. It's disappointing in that I was looking forward to this game. Not even really because of the Jimbo versus Fisher thing. I know that got a lot of run in the offseason, and a lot of people then immediately started looking for this game on the schedule. But I just was hoping this would be a good game. You know, as a college football fan, we all have favorite teams. But most people, especially most people around this channel, are college football fans. And then they have a favorite team. You know, there's another group of people that just have a favorite team and aren't necessarily college football fans. We all know people like this, right? They can tell you almost anything you want to know about their team, but they don't know anything at all about any of the other teams. They don't watch other games. And I'm not knocking people that are like that. But what I'm saying is, as a college football fan first, whose favorite team just happens to be Georgia, this was one of those games on the schedule this year that you're like, man, that's going to be a great game. And it's just disappointing that it's set up this way. Texas A&M is really, really bad. Statistically, they have the worst offense in the SEC. Their pass rush, to me, hasn't been what I thought it would be. Although, overall, I do think their defense has played well this season, especially when you consider how bad the offense is, right? And even the game last week that kind of got away from them in terms of, you know, if you just looked at the final score, right? There was a defensive touchdown in that game. There was, I think, was it a blocked field goal for a touchdown? There were two non-offensive touchdowns in that game. So not all of when you look at the scoreboard, that wasn't all on the defense for Texas A&M last year. But even if the Texas A&M defense were to play its best game, regardless of whether it's Bryce Young or Jalen Milroe, I don't see how Texas A&M offensively keeps up with Alabama. I really don't. Their offense has been that bad. They just haven't been able to get it right at quarterback. And, you know, there's a few offenses in college football. I think we talked about this on the call-in show yesterday. I could be wrong. Sometimes these live shows start to run together. But there are some offenses in college football that are, like, very dependent on high-level quarterback play. High-level quarterback play, right? Tennessee is an example of this, right? If Tennessee has a quarterback like Hendon Hooker who can grasp the Josh Heupel offense and run it at a high level, that offense is going to be good, right? You take Hendon Hooker out, leave the other 10 starters just like they are, take Hendon Hooker out, and bring another quarterback in who, for whatever reason, can't grasp or get their head around that Heupel offense or just doesn't have the physical tools to do what Hendon Hooker does, that offense will take a drastic step backwards, right? There are other offenses where it almost seems like it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Georgia might be an example of this. And this isn't a knock Stetson Bennett thing. But I don't think anybody watches Georgia's offense and goes, man, thank God they have Stetson Bennett. That's what I'm saying. So it's not a knock on Stetson Bennett, or it's definitely not a knock on Hendon Hooker, or it's not a knock on anybody. It's just to make the point that I think if you've watched enough college football, you kind of get that, right? There are certain offenses that are very dependent on elite quarterback play, and Texas A&M is one of those offenses. I've talked about this a lot over the last couple of weeks, but Jimbo Fisher has a very complicated offense that he's all in on. And this is the problem for Texas A&M, is that he's not willing to change that offense. But Jimbo Fisher is convinced that his offense is the way and the only way. And to run that, you've got to have a quarterback who not only totally gets it and understands it, but is all in on that mindset and philosophy and has the overall talent and skill set to implement that offense, like Jameis Winston. Texas A&M hasn't had that under Jimbo Fisher, and that, to me, primarily has been their issue offensively. Or specifically, that's been the issue. I still think the issue in general is Jimbo Fisher. Look, Jimbo has to know that he doesn't have that kind of quarterback, and he's got to be willing to tailor his offense around whatever quarterback he does have. Georgia did this last year. All offseason heading into 2021, Georgia practiced a specific style of offense geared towards JT Daniels slinging the ball 20 and 30 and 40 yards downfield the majority of the game. A sort of wide open passing attack offense. That was supposed to be Georgia last year. JT Daniels gets hurt. We have to play Stetson Bennett. Monken changed the offensive style, scheme, philosophy, and game plan for the season overnight to fit what Stetson Bennett could do. Jimbo Fisher's unwilling to do that. Jimbo Fisher says, this is the offense. These are the plays we're going to run. This is the style and sort of the plan of attack that we're going to have. And then he closes his eyes and he picks a quarterback to run it without taking into account whether or not that QB can actually run it. And that's been the problem for Texas A&M, and I don't see that problem going away this week on the road in Tuscaloosa. Now, let's get to the quarterback situation at Alabama. I don't think Bryce Young's playing. I will have to be proven wrong in order to change my mind. I don't really care what Nick Saban says or any of the practice reports say. I personally don't think Bryce Young is playing in this game. I think Alabama's going to hold him out. Could he play? Would he play if the injury and everything was in the time frame were exactly the same, but this Saturday was a playoff game, or this Saturday was the SEC title game, or this Saturday was on the road at Tennessee? Would Bryce Young play? Maybe. There may be something they could do to get him through the game. I don't know. But Nick Saban's been coaching a long, long time, and while he would never admit this out loud, I think Saban knows and the coaching staff knows that they can beat this Texas A&M team without Bryce Young. And unlike Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban and this Alabama offensive staff will tailor this game plan around the QB that they have, which is Jalen Milroe. Now, Jalen Milroe clearly cannot sling the ball around or throw the ball like Bryce Young. In fact, it's a steep drop-off in terms of passing ability right now from Bryce Young to Jalen Milroe. Could Jalen Milroe improve over time with more experience, practice, reps with the ones in practice? Yeah, of course. I'm not saying Jalen Milroe is never going to be a good thrower of the football. And let's face it, when you're the backup to Bryce Young, the bar is extremely high. It's unlikely any backup is going to come in and give you what Bryce Young gives you in terms of throwing the ball. But he is something to see when he takes off running. I'm here to tell you that right now. He is unreal when he takes off running. I look for Alabama to ground and pound, maybe a few play action passes, a few deep shots from Jalen Milroe. I do not expect the game plan for Alabama to be Jalen Milroe with a 2 or 3 step drop out of a shotgun, sit there, read the defense, wait for a wide receiver to break open and throw. I don't expect to see that. Not that we won't see it at all, but I don't think that's going to be the game plan, is for Jalen Milroe to sit in the pocket and sort of pick the Texas A&M secondary apart. That may be the plan with a Bryce Young. It's not going to be the plan with Jalen Milroe. Alabama's going to tailor the offense this week around what Jalen Milroe does well. He'll have a whole week. In my opinion, Alabama's not going to come out and tell you this, but I think we sort of all assume Jalen Milroe's getting all the first string reps this week. This will probably be the most amount of reps he's got with the first string since he's been at Bama. I expect some improvement from what I saw last week, Jalen Milroe, to this week. How much? I don't know. We'll see. But he didn't look good throwing the ball last week. I'm not knocking Jalen Milroe or Alabama. I think they're going to win this game huge. But even if you're an Alabama fan and you watch that game, you can praise what he did with his legs while still acknowledging he didn't look very good throwing the ball. He was 4 of 9 for 60 yards. And he played the entire second half and some of the second quarter, 4 of 9 for 60 yards against Arkansas, who has the worst pass secondary maybe in the SEC. They're horrible. Again, Texas A&M, as bad as they've been record-wise and as disappointing overall as they've been, their defense is much better than Arkansas's, in my opinion. But it's not going to matter, is what I'm getting at. I think Alabama's going to dominate and control this game from start to finish. I would be shocked if you see Texas A&M put together some type of run like Arkansas put together last week in the third quarter, where Arkansas scored, 23 straight points, 23 unanswered points to get the game within 5. I think the only time this game will be within a touchdown is at kickoff. I honestly believe that. I think Alabama's going to get up early in this game, grind the clock out with the running game. I think we're going to see a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs in this game, a lot of Jace McClellan, and of course a lot of Jalen Milroe. JJJ, the running game at Alabama, Triple J. Is that right? Jace McClellan, Jahmyr Gibbs, and now Jalen Milroe. Good luck, Texas A&M. It sure is fun to watch Jimbo Fisher fail. I love it.